So in 1991 was my first legislative session where I went as a citizen lobby speaking on behalf of station owners, gas station owners, body shops that did emission testing. And I said, y'all, our industry is about to change tremendously. Since it was a male-dominated industry and it was Latino and there was the machismo, I was really having a hard time of men listening. So there's one man whose name is Art Gandara, and I called him the godfather of the station owners, that I finally broke through. And I went with him with the documentation that I had, as much, articles that I had on a national level from auto industry magazines. And I said, look, what percentage of your, and I think what was in it for him was that his business was 90% inspections, emission testing and state inspections, and 10% something else. So he was interested in what I was saying. And what happened was he made a couple of phone calls and he said, hey, dale Shaina la Jainita, va a venir y hablarte contigo, basically saying, hey, listen to this young woman. She's going to come and talk to you about an industry change, and go ahead and listen to her. So after he cleared it, they had a network. It was amazing because everyone was talking to me, and then we started to have community meetings with the station owners. I was able to work with Gene Fondren, who at the time was the dean of the lobby here in Austin, Texas, very well respected, very much respected by members of the legislature, people in the industry, and also lobbyists themselves. And we partnered, and he saw me as this independent that was organizing station owners in El Paso, hooked me up with some of the car dealers in El Paso, and then we were able to go. He and I testified. Basically, we were the only ones from Texas on the EPA in DC. So that in itself, started a relationship that carried on to my running for public office. So I did this for 6 years, 91, 93, 95. The Texas Clean Air Act passed in 95. And of course, we passed a bill. It was a nonpartisan bill, or bipartisan, I should say. It was bipartisan, with Senator Whitmire, the Senate sponsor, and Representative Horn, English only, Horn on the House side, which was like an odd coalition because Whitmire was considered so liberal. And then George Bush as governor, Bob Bullock as lieutenant governor, and Pete Laney as speaker. So that was my first bill as a citizen, and we passed it in 96 and 95. And I ran for office in 96. Politics is timing, and that's what happened to me. I didn't prepare my life to run for the Texas legislature, to get into politics. I was obviously excited about working in the legislature, and 3 sessions. I knew the Capitol fairly well, a lot of members. And then Nancy McDonald announced her retirement. So a friend of mine was working for Speaker Laney, and he called me up. We went to college at UT in my first go-round, and he said, Nancy's going to retire, and I'm bringing you a map, and you need to run. And I said, what is that? What do you mean? And he just said, look, if Gary Schar calls you, he was the reporter for the El Paso Times, and he asks you if you're going to run, you say yes. He said, because it is important who's the first one out of the chute. This is all political, basics, political 101. So I said, okay, the summer passed, and Labor Day weekend is usually the traditional day that candidates announce their candidacy, and Gary Schar called. So I wasn't really prepared, and he just said, well, Nancy told me she's not coming back, and you were passed your bill as a citizen. Are you going to run? And are you in, is what he asked me. And I said, I'm in. And that was he wrote a column on Sundays, and that's what the column was. She's in. So I read the column on a Sunday, and I called my friend and I said, well, now what do I do? So he said, come to Austin. So we filed my, campaign report, and he told me the first thing, go talk to Gene Fondren. And he said, you need to talk to him. He's very well respected. You need to tell him you're going to run. And if he doesn't support you, you really don't have any business running. And I said, okay. So I went and saw Gene Fondren, and I talked to him, and I said, I'm going to run for Nancy's seat. And, the lobbyist said he was. He said, well, are you going to win? And I said, yeah, I'm going to win. And so he just kept on conversing, and then he said, I want you to go upstairs and meet Lena Guerrero. And so Lena was had officed out of his building, and Lena was sizing me up. I didn't realize that Lena, the first major job that was given to her was from Jean Fondren. And so and my first opinion was, wow, even though Lena had had a quick rise into the Democratic politics and an abrupt, stop, but and she was still Lena Guerrero, right? And so I got there and went to her office, and we sat down, and she asked me all sorts of questions and everything, and basically we became good friends, and she became a mentoring friend for my first run for public office.